Yes, that's what.
Okay, thank you all for being here. I want to just test the technology here.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to those in person, welcome to those online. Thank you for everyone's extra patience with a longer worship service and setup. Thank you, Venkatesh, for getting us set up down here, and I'm going to pass the mic to Kathy. Christine, can you give me a thumbs up right now if you hear me fine? Thank you, great. Here's Kathy.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest and your commitment. We couldn't do it without you, the Sacred Reckonings process. So will be a review for many of you. The Sacred Reckonings curriculum was developed for churches founded by white settler colonizers to guide us in faithfully facing a history of white supremacism and colonization and its outgrowth, present-day racism, inequality, and injustice, and in guiding us in the work for repair and liberation. Many of you have seen the overlapping circles that represent the process of sacred reckonings. Well, today I'm calling them overlapping strands, since we're talking often about braiding things. It's a similar concept. And the strands are truth-telling, spiritual practice, relationship, political solidarity, and wealth return. Today we're going to hear about the Sacred Reckonings team's inspiring meeting with a group of people who are deeply engaged in the work of reckoning and repair. And one thing they said to us was to always include the Spirit. So now I'll pass the mic to Holly, who will lead us in a spiritual practice.
The opening ritual for Sacred Reckoning requires first our breathing awareness. So let's take a moment, breathe in love, breathe out peace. In love, out peace. Truth and liberation for all. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Check in with your body. I would also say, check in with your heart, your feelings, your mind, and check in with your ancestors. Listen for the spirit of ancestors. Their wisdom can guide us. I would also invite people to realize that second chances are a part of who we are together. The sacred norms. In this important, challenging, and sacred work, we will strive to see this as joyful work, knowing that through it, we all stand to find liberation and jubilee in this work. We will practice radical open-heartedness. We expect to make mistakes. We will likely say racist, uninformed things without knowing it. We agree to take risks, to share knowing we can trust each other in safe, brave spaces. We agree not to be so guarded that we hold back from sharing. We are a forgiving community. Jesus says 7 times 77. We agree not to judge. We agree not to use other people's stories without permission. We will strive to call people in rather than call people out.
Okay. So, one of the things we've learned from the Sacred Reckonings process is that both we all have spiritual gifts to bring to this and truth that we all have garnered, and also we need wisdom from outside of our context. So, the Sacred Reckonings team, maybe even the Race and Identity team before that, I can't remember who first did, but we stumbled on an article a couple years back now, maybe a year and a half back, about a congregation in Brooklyn. Old First, was it? UCC? Old First Reformed in Brooklyn. And this church did some work, some intentional work around their stained glass windows in their sanctuary, and they leaned into the denomination for help. So we were really intrigued by this article. We sent it around to the church at the time, and we dug deeper into that, and we found, wait a sec, we have an incredible resource within our own denomination. So that led us to Cleveland, Ohio, the headquarters of our UCC, where in 2017, the Reverend Dr. Velda Love began as our minister for racial justice. I use those pronouns intentionally. And she's written a lot of books. She used to be on staff at North Park Theological Seminary in the Chicago area. And one of her books is Beyonce and the Theology of Lemonade. So we were intrigued. So for a few months there, Sacred Reckonings said, hey, let's contact Dr. Love. I raised my hand probably 2 months into that process. 3 months went by, I still hadn't done it. Finally reached out to Reverend Dr. Love, and she was willing to have a conversation. Okay, tell me more about your congregation, what you're thinking about. And I invited Reverend Joshua, so the two of us had a Zoom conversation with Dr. Love. Joshua is coming today, he was joining us for this meeting. And she was really intrigued by our Sacred Reckonings process and our Reframing the Light sanctuary process in its future and what we intend to do around racial justice and sanctuary. So we had 2 meetings together, Joshua and myself and Dr. Love, and she then, by the third, suggested that she had heard enough from us about our investment and she wanted to invite some of her colleagues and friends to another meeting. And as soon as that happened, I said, we need to invite our Sacred Reckonings team to this process. So we did. We invited that on May 21st. We had a meeting with, raise your hand if you were in that meeting. So Trudy, Kathy, Holly, and Christine, and Joshua, myself, that was the group. And we heard from them. Christine's going to give a little more context here, but we heard from Dr. Love, not only, we didn't actually hear much about the Brooklyn church, we heard about another church, First Church DC, another UCC congregation, which we're about to hear more about in depth. So I'm not going to mention the project that they engage with, but Reverend Amanda Hendler-Voss is their pastor, and Dr. Shannon Fenema and Dr. Renee Harrison were all part of that meeting where we all felt the Spirit. You mentioned that. That was how they ended the meeting and began the meeting. We sensed it, and we pivoted pretty quickly for this Sacred Reckonings gathering. Kathy had prepared a whole curriculum for today's teaching that we would all engage with around white supremacy, and we said, that is so important, let's postpone that, and let's dig in deep here, because we all caught a little bit of fire, and we felt like that needed to be shared more broadly for this. Christine, does that give enough context for you to pick up the mic at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So hi, nice to see you all. And so we were all on this Zoom conversation with folks in the Cleveland area and also in DC, and we learned more about this sister church that has a very similar kind of But this first church in DC is a congregational church. It was built by members of the Abraham Lincoln's administration right after the Civil War, as a church that was an abolitionist church. So right away, mid-19th century, our covenant is mid-19th century, founded by abolitionists, and had they were very proud of their origin story. And they talked a lot about it as they came upon their 150th anniversary. But they also understood that the physical place where their church is located was a tobacco plantation before the church was built and before Washington, D.C. was made the capital of the United States. And so they use the term excavate. They don't do research, they don't explore, they excavate. They dig into their past. And the more they learned, the more they understood how much more complex and complicated and not always something to be proud of their story is. And so we heard so many reverberations and echoes of our own story in theirs, and yet they are so much farther ahead of us in terms of their excavation. They're not done, and one of the things they make clear to us is that you're never done. It's an unfolding process, always and always. But they had shared with us a 13-minute video that they made after they had gone through a long process and had come on a step towards their repair of their history. And we want to show you the video. It's not that very long, but it's very deep. It goes very deep, very fast. And you'll meet some of the people that we met on that video. And we think we'll have a conversation afterwards about where you hear echoes and reverberations and resonances for where Covenant is right now and where we might go. So I think that's enough to get us set up.
Yeah, so when we're watching the movie, which takes about 13 minutes, also keep in mind that afterwards we're going to share, some words of first impression. So if there's something that's, speaks to you, and hold that thought for 30 minutes, or listen to what we hear, and then later also we'll have some time more to share, but just a word of that impresses you. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if this works. So there's no volume.
There we go.
Let's try that. Okay.
Today is a historic All Saints Sunday at First Church.
Hey.
With such a spirited presence here today, our worship service will be a little different. We are speaking the names for the very first time of the enslaved laborers who worked this land on which our church now rests. This land, before the church arrived, was a tobacco plantation. And we want to honor and memorialize these ancestors who toiled here as we continue to excavate the hidden history of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Washington, D.C. We have told our history in very particular ways, and we are now learning to tell it anew. We are memorializing these ancestors by bringing forward symbols of them to place on our worship table among what we call that great cloud of witnesses. We are having stations all around the sanctuary today where lament will take place and where healing can take place. We invite you forward to participate in one or two of our many healing
black names. The structures, the mansions, the estates, the cathedrals, the blueprints, the churches, the inventions, the innovations, the White House, the Treasury Building, the Capitol, black names, fashioned all of this. People being insignificant and unworthy, sacrificed, served, and built under the threat of death to help make possible the world in which we live today. I want to reach through time and space to the past, to the present. You see, it was just 8 years ago. I delivered the keynote address in this very space to celebrate the church's 150th anniversary. I applauded you for your long history and your founders, and I simultaneously challenged the congregation. I raised several questions regarding the enslaved people who lived and were forced to work on the land at the center of our nation's capital.
When Dr. Renee Harrison spoke to us in 2015, that was a bit of a revelation because our history has always been told from its founding in 1865 by abolitionists. That's a great story, but it was sort of astounding how incomplete suddenly that story seemed. I want our ancestors to come and walk among us now. I want to know these people.
You said, I want to know more about this history. I want to record it. I need someone to write about it. And so you came to me, and I went to my grad student, Antonio.
This project is a reclamation of sorts. The Burns family is a family that was descended from Scottish immigrants, from my understanding, and they own a large amount of property in what was then Prince George's County, Maryland, and that property ended up becoming what is now known as the District of Columbia. There weren't a lot of primary documents that were created by the Burns family, at least that I could find in the public sector. So I had to rely on government records, essentially. I think that one of the most profound things that we know today from my research is the names of the people who were enslaved by the Burns family.
We do not know the names of all who have perished, but you know, oh God. And so we lift them up to you. We light a candle to honor the elders of the Piscataway Convoy tribe and the Natchitoches Pentecostal people.
We call the names of the ancestors of African descent, those women, men, and children held against their will, and who labored upon the land that this church now sits. Sal,
Hercules,
Diana,
Annabelle, Sarah,
Simon Bell,
Harry, Bartholomew,
Mary,
Dorcas, Tom, Harry, Grace, William, Reason,
Paul,
Charles, George,
Betty Jane,
Anthony,
Fletcher,
London, Richard,
Darcy,
Sally,
Jane,
Flora,
Betty,
Rachel,
Lisa,
Eleanor, Ben, Mary. so ruled by doctrine, by ideology, and by fear, and not by exploration, we can't be afraid or feel too fragile about our past. It is. We don't change it. But we can understand it, and we can understand it for ourselves. By knowing these names through Antonio's research, by having a list of names, we have a glimpse, but we don't have their stories.
My research kind of paves the way, it allows for someone else to come behind and expound upon it. The people here at First Church were and are interested in an unabridged history, something that is not whitewashed. And I think that at times you don't find majority white congregations and white people interested in addressing these types of uncomfortable truths.
It is significant for us to be doing this work in this moment in history. This is a time when across the country books are being banned. AP African American history is being banned in certain states. We are being told, our educators are being told that they should not engage a conversation that will make a white child feel uncomfortable. I would say for myself, as a faith leader of European descent, I don't just do this for somebody else. I do it because my own heart's well-being is at stake.
In a small segment of the world, creating a ripple effect that will last for a lifetime. You did that. The greatest commandment of these is to love God and love neighbor. You have done that. So go forth in love, beautiful people, and continue to make ripples throughout the nation. Go in peace.
We'll take some time to share some of our first impressions, just a word or a brief part of a scene that spoke to you. We'll definitely want to include those of you who are online, so if you'd like to share, please raise your hand and I will bring the mic over and share.
Thanks. I felt the naming of the names was so moving. It was really powerful.
I felt, I'm trying to understand but I do see a connection between what was happening on the land before the church was built and why that church would never have been there if there hadn't been an economy that made that land have its wealth and its existence by settlement.
Just the image that she brought up of black hands. She said that a couple of times. Cool.
I didn't hear what you.
Black hands.
Black. Oh,
The image of black hands.
oh. Building. Everything. Christine.
My own heart's well-being, Reverend Amanda.
Christine, did you read?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've seen this video a few times now, but the thing that struck me this time was the camera on the ledger and every name saying ditto, 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 and only first names. And we know that those were names not given to them by their parents, but by the slaveholders.
Wendy?
Very much I was moved by the crescendo of the movie, and the last part of it, the very end, is the purpose of their purpose for doing it, and that brought me to tears because she nailed it. It wasn't to change the past or I forgot the exact words, but her purpose was so believable and admirable. It gives me hope that we can open our doors to that what do you call it, archiving.
Molly?
She didn't use the word triumphalist, but obviously they patted themselves on the back before they started excavating. And I think it's easy, especially for churches like ours that were founded right at the end of the Civil War, to think, weren't we great? But come to find out, we weren't so great.
I was struck by the name of Simon. How she brought, the pastor brought that back to her own son and made it so real. Are there any others that want to just share this brief first impression? Diane?
Yeah, I guess it's the naming it as speaking the whole story that really is what feels right. And like she said, for her own heart, it's not in my mind so much about like, getting caught in who was good and who wasn't good. It's expanding the story so it's more true.
Thank you. Kathy?
Almost the same. The elder woman said, the unabridged, unwhitewashed history.
I just have to say I was a little distracted because one of the first images I saw in there was our friend, Mary Pence. And we knew Mary.
My college freshman roommate.
Oh, wow. And we knew she was a member of a very active UCC church, but we never discussed it. We didn't get into that detail. It's like, wow, I didn't expect to see her there. So I was sort of distracted. I kept looking. Mary must be on your account. Makes me want to go visit her and go to that church. Yeah.
Any others?
I guess I'd say one more. Thank you. We have their names, but we don't have their stories. We don't know their stories.
Edina?
So this is not related to could have made discussion here, but can you please give some kudos to the vocal skills of the guest vocalist closing the video?
Yes, Joshua would say, yes.
One of the details of the video that genuinely good.
He was very good.
Oh, the guy.
Oh,
And the choir.
The singer,
Of
yeah.
course. Yeah, choir.
Yeah, invite him over. So we now want to take some time to think about what we've seen and how does it, relate to us and the process that we are in. So maybe some things came to mind that you see, like,
I remember reading the story about another church, and maybe it's the one in Brooklyn, where they researched their stained glass windows and figured out who put forth the money for those, and then looked up who worked for them, the names. I think we can do that too. We can do research into who funded those stained glass windows. I think we have some of that history, and then excavate a little bit more.
I thought about our neighbor at Old South Church, which, as you know, is UCC. They have a columbarium. I don't know if any of you have ever been in there. And on the wall of the columbarium, they have the names of people who were enslaved. I'm not sure what the exact history is, whether they were enslaved by members of the original church, which is pretty common.
Just a little bit about Old South. This was at the start of May. They have a Phyllis Wheatley Sunday. Are you all familiar? Phyllis Wheatley Sunday. So Phyllis Wheatley, come to find out, was a member of Old South. So once a year they have a Phyllis Wheatley Sunday. The intern this year, their seminarian intern, he was doing what do they call it? An advanced master's degree at STH. And I knew him before he moved here. So he said, we can do more than just put this in the bulletin and have cookies and tea at the end of service. So I was invited to be a part of a panel. So that was where I saw the columbarium for the first time, or at least paid attention to it in Old South. But just this idea that it even had a Sunday, you know what I'm saying, to recognize clearly one of the more famous members, but certainly one who had formerly been enslaved as well.
Any others? Some thoughts?
There's Betty.
Betty?
What I would just bring up, if nobody else has, is Christine did some work on Bates Hall. And I think we reported that once in our other spiritual ed, but the money was given by an abolitionist. However, his money came from running a mill in the South using slaves. So it's, as Tim said, it's complicated. It's sort of like, and as Kathy said, we need to look at the whole picture because it's a complicated piece.
Christine?
Yeah, thanks, Betty. Yeah, we have done some of that research, and I've since reached out to the Congregational Library, which is actually right nearby in Boston, downtown Boston, to see if they have more records, to your good idea, Karen, of who were the people who helped to found the church, where did their livelihoods come from, and how did they come to do it. They don't have a lot of information about our central congregation, which was the congregational church of the two that founded Church of the Covenant. But we're not going to stop there. Just like the church in DC, they haven't stopped in their excavation. And just maybe a little more explanation that we heard from Reverend Amanda on the call was that to Holly's idea that they used to feel very proud of themselves and tell the story of we were founded by men from the Lincoln administration and we were founded by abolitionists. And then the PhD students who helped them do the research found more information about how the minister was founded and opened, 4 years later, he left the church with half of the congregation because of an interest by some in integrating worship and integrating Sunday school, and he just would not have that. And they didn't know that about themselves, that within 4 years of their founding by abolitionists, they had a split because the congregation, the minister couldn't bear the idea of black people and white people sitting in worship together. So this is Diane's good point, this is telling the whole story or the fuller story, and not shying away from it just because it's not pleasant. And we heard the minister, Reverend Amanda, invoke the names of the peoples who had lived on the land even before it was the tobacco plantation, by the indigenous people. And certainly we have that history too. The land that we're on was actually water way back when, before they filled in the Back Bay, and was used by indigenous people to fish and to live. So there's many, many layers, and we're never done, but we can keep excavating, we can keep doing the research. And it would be great, I would love to do more of this research, it's actually kind of inspiring to hit an obstacle and go, okay, I guess I can't go that way, but I'm gonna go a different way. And if anybody, not just people on the Sacred Reckoning scheme, but anybody in the congregation who wants to help, and of course you're there, I'm up here, I'll come down there, but you're there. And it would be great to have partners to help do this excavation and see which path we can get farther down as we go forward.
So I'm remembering when we celebrated our 150th, I think I've got the dates right, of this church, the building anyway, the founding, or the building of the church. And we had a speaker in talking about the founding of the Back Bay. And the Back Bay, the way, we were learning was that the Back Bay was filled in and built because they didn't want all the rich people to leave Boston because of all these immigrants, these filthy Irish and Italians and others who were moving in. It was becoming not an exclusive enough city for people who had become incredibly wealthy here in Boston. And so, knowing that our church was one of the early inhabitants of the Back Bay, clearly means that we've had many of us, of our ancestors who were part of that strata of society. And just look at this building, you can see they must have been part of the strata of society. So, the anti-immigrant stuff, but also where did that wealth come from? And I think I'll speak for myself. Somebody who lives a privileged life, we know that I didn't earn this in a way that other people haven't earned it. So I think that's important for us as a congregation and as individuals as well to try to be sure that we try to learn that lesson.
I'm glad you spoke before me, because it even gave me even some more ways of just scaffolding. I don't know if scaffolding is quite the right word, but yeah, because I was thinking as Christine spoke and then Tim spoke before me. Yeah, that's a fascinating idea about the land piece, and that in a way that a lot of other places you can trace the land back to, where you are, you can trace the land back. But this is new land, this is landfill, this is actually a specific location that used to be on water. And what does landfill actually mean? Where did this land that we're on actually come from? Help me out. I'm still new to Boston after 6 years. It came from, they dug up some of the former hills, so it was the Newton Hills, okay, that they brought in. And so that question then, right, the land that was once in Newton, is that our land now? I'm not saying that's a yes or no, but I'm just saying that's something to think about. And even again, questions of where was the stone quarried from? I actually don't know the answer to that. Does anybody?
It's Roxbury Pudding Stone.
Which came from?
The building?
Yes.
All over.
So it came from all over, like in the local area. Okay. From Roxbury.
Came from Maine also.
And Nova Scotia.
Maine.
The sandstone.
Yeah.
So those are questions I think that are worth, as I heard Christine use the term, excavating, to say what were all the constitutive natural resources actually in the hands that participated in that came together to make sense of all this, which is why we're saying this. Even this morning's sermon, this is complicated. I know there are just a lot of different constituencies and, tributaries that flow up into the way that we think about ourselves. Last thing I'll say, since I have the mic, I'm going to be quiet. I promise after this one. Is anybody in this room familiar? She was pretty popular in around 2010s, 2015. Chimamanda Adichie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I figured you all did. Okay.
Yeah. Nigeria.
Yeah. So in one of her more viral TED Talk speeches about the danger of a single narrative. Oh, you all don't know that one. I'm gonna send. Someone please remind me. I need to make sure. Yeah. Okay. Someone online. Okay. Christine knows that one. So I'm paraphrasing this, but it's the triumphalist idea. We tell one story and we forget all of the other parts that go into it. So think about the Mississippi River, because I grew up close enough to the Mississippi River. By the time you get to the mouth of the river near New Orleans, you kind of forget that the Missouri goes into it, the Arkansas, the Ohio River, the Illinois River, all of these different tributaries, or the idea that it's really a small stream from a slightly muddy lake where it starts in the headwaters of Minnesota. Because you tell the single narrative, it's New Orleans, it's this big, mighty Mississippi River. And I think that is something that I think we're doing some good work here to make sure that we tell the stories of the tributaries that make up Church of the Covenant in 2026.
Yeah.
That's a great,
Really good.
Amen.
In addition to where did all that soil and rock come from, who did all the work? It was those Irish immigrants and undoubtedly black residents, it wasn't the Boston Brahmins who did the work. And I think, we need to remember and acknowledge the work of the current regime in trying to take away all of that. Like, the Bunker Hill Monument is the most recent thing. Remove any references to slavery or anything like that on our national monuments.
Ripping it off the walls.
Yeah, rip it off.
Yeah.
So I think part of this, of course, is about setting the history right. It's also about setting the present and future right. It is definitely about looking back and reckoning. It's also about repair, telling the truth and repair for the present and future.
Yeah, one thing that follows up on that is that what we heard from their stories when they were also explaining how they had to pivot into what they thought their response was going to be. First, they thought they were going to build a memorial, and they, like a wall with all the names of these people. And then in their work with this artist who really, was driven by the Spirit, said, no, the people don't want their names stuck on stone. And they changed it in a commemoration, which we saw what this was. They also decided to do a stained glass window instead. So really something from the inside and outside being visible, not in stone. So, but they also showed how that process had some times of discomfort to it, because once you're in one path and you think we know what we're doing, and then somebody says, no, I don't think we should be doing that. How do you listen to the Spirit to guide you in the steps going forward? I had not seen that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Is that in that church?
Before we
That is what they built, yeah.
Before we close, we want to tell people how they can be involved.
Yes.
That's Betty, I think. Was
I'm
Betty?
not sure.
No.
Betty's got to move
Okay.
on to
Yeah.
her appointment.
Okay.
I will say, I can say a little bit, that as Christine alluded to, anybody who wants to go do research, we would love to have partners to do that. Whether it meant going to the congregational library or digging in, going over to the BPL or wherever it is, on links or whatever, anybody who could help, that would be great. Because we think it would be fun, but it would be nice not to do that alone. So that would be one thing that we wanted to. We also, I think, talked about having an all-church read that Dr. Harrison had done, which is Black Hands White Church.
White House.
White
House.
And I tried to go to the library, but I couldn't. I know Trudy ordered it, I ordered it, so that may be something we could discuss in the fall. So if you needed something to read over the summer, that would be a place to dig in. And then we want to come back, obviously, in the fall and tell you more about what we've learned. But, okay, what else did we say?
Yeah, particularly the name. The catchy name of Truth Diggers has just been born as of now. I mean, the Sacred Reckonings team came up with that, but Truth Diggers will gather in July for an in-person and online gathering for a few hours. So if you want to come and dig, we're going to gather here with coffee and tea, and then we're going to go to those 4 places. We have 4 incredible resources within blocks of here. The African American Heritage Museum and the other 2 that Betty had 3 that Betty has just named. So, and we have a lead, and we're going to try to find more leads of historians. We would love for someone to come and speak to us. How do you truth dig? What's the process? I asked Joshua, is that PhD student still at Old South? And they left. So unfortunately, but those are the people. So think about those people in your own lives. Think about the historians, the artists. We're moving the Reframe the Light project. We've put on hold so that Sacred Reckonings could lead the way. Are you seeing the affirmation of why we did that? This is why. Because we've just learned all this, and now we have a much broader and deeper excitement and bench to it. Who's concluded?
Well, I also would like to make a pitch that it would be great if we already start writing up what we know, because I've heard the Bates Hall, but I also know the building, the whole sanctuary. Money for that came from people that had, the textile industry. So I think, Benjamin Bates, Lillian Bates was downstairs, right? Anyway, so there are these pieces that we know, and it would be nice that we say, okay, what is it that we know, and that we can build on that, build on the story.
Yeah.
So.
Quickly, would it be helpful, you think, remember that history sheet? Oh, yeah, sorry. Remember that history sheet that's in your office, Nancy?
It's a timeline, yeah.
Would that be helpful to resend out, or do people already know that, or have that already?
Yeah, no.
From 1835.
Yeah, there's a timeline that you all as a congregation worked on, looked like Bush era. He's about 20 years old at this point, but it might be a good refresher just to have online. Right, to know that to know like our pre-Civil War with the 2 churches. So that might, okay.
That's great. Are we at? Okay. All right, friends, would you just pray with me? And take a breath in and out again to begin the prayer. God, we thank you for the ancestors and the saints before us, among us, and after us. Lead us in the way of truth, of excavation. Thank you for those in D.C. and in Ohio who are helping us, and continue to send us helpers and help us to be open to their leading as we move forward in hope and in light. In the name of Christ among us. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.